Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is January 21st, 2025. This month is going by very, very quickly. And
we're all recovering from various levels of convalescence.
Yeah, I was sick. And then we had the snow. I feel like I was in goblin mode for like a month straight.
We are still going to do the live stream. I promise.
Yeah.
It's just, there's been a lot of suffering.
The
I'm
February
sorry.
live stream, like we always said.
You guys never heard any other thing.
Well, we might be busy. We might have a full dance card, but there's one man who does not. And yet, he's doing more than he has in a very, very long time. And when I say he, I mean everybody around him.
The headline from Wired is a new jam-packed Biden executive order tackles cybersecurity, AI, and more. This is a really maybe an historic executive order. One, because the size, good Lord, 40 pages. And two, it is almost entirely technology related and technology policy. It sort of seems to recognize that things are real bad inside the federal government in terms of policy, organization. Do we even follow best practices? Did anybody remember to update the firewall? And the answer to all those questions is no.
Which is weird because the solution is to put more government control over everything. So CISA will now be inserting itself in everything and checking everybody's stuff and being in control of all of that. It also put in some basic rules that you're going to have to follow in terms of if you do business with the government, you now have to follow those NIST/CISA technology rules, or you don't work for them anymore. And here's one that unfortunately probably won't survive the next 10 days, but we did need this one. Why didn't we just do this way earlier?
Like 4 years ago. John Deere faces a U.S. lawsuit over farmers' ability to repair their tractors. And, you know, I hate it when we cover these stories because it sounds like the same thing that we covered 4 years ago, but it literally is just inching along that slowly. Like there's a meta conversation to be had here about even when literally everybody recognizes this is the right thing to do, it is inevitably slow walked.
But I think, part of it is probably like just, inefficiency, but some of it too, like it takes a while to build a case and like get all that documentation. And then by the time you get it all together, it's like, oh, the administration changed.
This one was pretty egregious, though.
Yeah, I'm not defending John Deere here.
I don't know how to put it in legalese exactly, but I think I could have put this together in like 10 days.
With the paralegal team, even faster.
Pretty easy to spot what's going on here, which is you're not allowed to repair your tractors. So all the emissions stuff and the software copyright stuff, it's basically a computer on wheels, just bigger wheels. And it's the same kind of thing as Tesla. It's hard to fix. And even the people that know how to fix it are met with not having the tools or legally being prevented from circumventing certain things in order to fix it.
I had to be in Lexington this week, and I saw a Cybertruck again. I was like,
did you flip them off?
No, I was just like, ooh. Like every time I see it, it's like that kind of a visceral reaction.
I think the bloom is off that rose, right?
Yeah, it was not, especially like, it's been snowy here and like the salt, like it just looked beat up.
You're not supposed to get it wet, right? So how do you think the freezing rain affected
Probably
it?
not well.
Probably
Also,
in a garage, though.
On my way here, I saw the most amazing, those like little tiny compact cars, I think they're like a Yaris or something like that. It was painted red on the bottom and the top was like that bright sunny yellow, so it looked like a child's car. It was so cute.
Oh, they actually make was it Playmobil?
Yeah.
And they actually make the smart cars.
Oh, in that like...
that you can wrap and make it exactly like that.
It was kind of like that, and I passed it and I immediately went, like out loud. I was so excited.
You know what I saw on the way here? A guy in the road, like right in front of me on a bicycle, pulling a shopping cart behind him.
I think I saw that guy too.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a DUI. That's a DUI person.
That's a problem. And so a certain company has a problem because their most popular app is now in a weird legal limbo.
Supreme Court backs a law banning TikTok if it's not sold by its Chinese parent company. And so it's supposed to shut down Sunday, which is like basically the day after we film this. And it's probably going to come right back in like 3 more days after that.
But see, shut down only applies to them making money, right? Like the app is still going to be there. It's still going to function. You can still
But why
use
would
it.
they do all the video hosting and stuff if they're not making any money off of it?
To wait 3 days.
Also, the Associated Press has failed us. It fails to mention that the president of the U.S. TikTok company was invited to the inauguration, and he has announced he will be attending.
Yeah, he's going to be like...
And he's going to give them $1 million, just like all the others.
I feel like that might be a portent of things to come. What do you think, chat?
But I also saw a headline that Biden was trying to figure out a way to save it. Like, save it from yourself?
I'm lost. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he and Mr. Beast can get together, because didn't Mr. Beast put in an offer on it as well as Kick?
We'll talk more about TikTok in the social media section, which will be tomorrow. But yeah, it's a weird situation. And more outgoing shots fired, and this time it is, again, squarely at China.
The Verge's headline is U.S. finalizes rule that could effectively ban Chinese vehicles, which could include Polestar. And the reasons cited by the administration include that China would have access to your driving data, and they don't think that they have sufficient safeguards in that. Which is wild because...
General Motors?
Yeah. General Motors literally was caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
And every company in China is probably reporting to the CCP. And remember when they had the Tesla thing? Where they're like, we don't trust Teslas. This is just a mirror image of that. It's crazy that they're blaming each other for doing what they both do to their own citizens.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man meme
Well, it's
lives
more
on.
complicated than
And
Spider-Man.
meanwhile, I'm sitting here and it's like, do I have a right to repair this nonsense out of my car? And it's not, I can't just do that. Like, I can't just log into the car and be like, hey, stop it. There's not an easy way to do that. And that's me. For randos that just want to drive a car and get from point A to B, like, what are you supposed to do?
Suffer.
Yeah, apparently. and that's why everybody's getting fed up.
You're separating yourself from the randos.
Well, I mean, if I can't figure it out, my grandma certainly can figure it out.
Well, here's a blast from the past, and maybe part of the past that we'd like to forget. If you can remember that a lot of people were opportunistic during some of our darker times, and they didn't do their due diligence.
FTC says refunds for Razer's false N95 face masks are going out now. Boy, they really delayed a long time.
For crimes against fashion.
Over $1
but
million
also-
is on the way, split among thousands of people. That doesn't seem like as much as they like. Doesn't seem like I don't know.
What did those cost? Were they like
They were
$80
expensive, yeah.
or something like that? I bet there's not too many of those still, and in use.
I guarantee you, there's at least 5 people out there that's like, no, I refuse the refund. I knew that going into this that I was just buying it for the lulz.
For the memes, yeah.
Now, divorce yourself for a moment from the narrative. Take a step back and ask yourself and your leadership, why would there be a time factor at all here?
GM banned from selling your driving data for 5 years. The order comes after GM was caught selling customer data to third-party data brokers and insurance companies without consent. Why would it be? Like, is it going to be okay in 5? This was never okay. Listen, we caught you loading the unwanted orphans into the chipper shredder. You're just going to have to do more paperwork next time to make sure that you've got everything signed before you load those orphans into the chipper shredder.
And wait 5 years. But don't worry, there'll be a bumper crop of orphans in 5 years. And here is, once again, we have discovered that there's been a problem. It's probably been a problem longer than anybody says it was really a problem, and we've totally gotten rid of it, and there's no way that there's any of it left. We're sure, don't worry.
The Reuters headline is U.S. removes malware allegedly planted on computers by Chinese-backed hackers. The headline that I would have chosen is a couple of dudes in the FBI decided that they needed to delete some files off of like 4,000 computers they had surreptitious access to, and it probably was the least bad decision that could be made. This was a botnet, and the FBI got access to at least some of the computers, and so they were like, well, somebody might figure out a way to block us, so we should just go ahead and delete all this and hope for the best. Which was not terribly unreasonable, but I feel like that's just kind of paper overing the root problem, which is, do we know where this came from? Can we track the group that this came from? Can we stop them? Can we make computer security better in general? Do we not need like state-mandated wiretap access to things? This is not related to that, but...
Well, we are getting AI chip restrictions. It's going to be a, like, who's our friend and who isn't list to determine how much you get AI chips. That is bad for certain giant tech companies.
The Register's headline is Nvidia snaps back at Biden's innovation-killing AI chip export restrictions. We reported on this last week, And then the administration revealed some more details that made it a little bit more odious. And Nvidia's response was basically, this is immature, it doesn't work, and what are you doing?
Paraphrase, we like to sell chips to China. Please don't stop us from doing that. We make a lot of money doing that.
Interestingly, one of Nvidia's arguments was, look, even if we don't sell this to China, we literally can't build the capacity here and in our allies quickly enough to lease them access in the cloud. And like the Chinese customers would be satisfied with that level of access, like leasing it in the cloud. But we don't have the space or electrical capacity or anything like that to do that. So what are we supposed to do?
Well, I mean, that's the whole spirit of it, right? Leasing it in the cloud is just a paper over. It doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically saying, okay, but let us get away with it. And we have New Jersey joining, I think a couple other states have done this, right? Or maybe counties. It's weird. Countries. It's a piecemeal approach, but it seems like we're moving toward this everywhere.
Governor Murphy calls for classroom ban on cell phones in New Jersey. Doesn't seem unreasonable.
I don't have strong feelings about it.
I mean, yeah.
And just as we discover that General Motors was selling all of our information to the insurance companies, we have to ask ourselves, well, what was the insurance company doing with that? Well, they were raising your prices, but they weren't just counting on one data source.
Texas sues Allstate for collecting driver data to raise premiums and in some cases cancel policies.
So this was an SDK that they paid apps. They were all driving related apps. Like one was Gas Buddy.
Yeah.
So he's like, you want to get cheap gas? Life 360 family monitoring app. What is that? That sounds
Plus, you
awful.
can watch your kids, like see where they are when they're out driving around.
So if you installed any of these apps, they paid the app developers to install this SDK, which reported all of your movements back to Allstate. They used that in your insurance premium calculations.
You're in good hands.
I would love to see discovery from this because I guarantee you never got a discount that only used it to raise your premium or cancel your policy.
They also point out that in the context of the app, they don't know that you're driving.
Yeah.
Like, what if you're riding along in a police car or something? So, they were measuring like the accelerations and stuff and how much you drive. But what if you're taking the bus?
Doesn't matter. The algorithm says you shouldn't be insured, so you're not going to be insured.
It seems like that's where we're going. And New York has decided to introduce or actually start enforcing a bill that was very, very heavily lobbied against.
New York starts enforcing its $15 broadband law that ISPs tried to kill. AT&T responded by throwing a tantrum. But basically, you can get home internet, residential internet service for $15 to $20 a month. And ISPs aren't having it.
We have the AT&T story. I must have put that in business.
Oh, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Because if you're an AT&T shareholder, you should knock them for doing dumb things.
And New York has, you never want a crisis to go to waste, right? So we had our healthcare crisis that we won't discuss too much. Did that even turn out to be 3D printed? But it was reported early on, and that's all you need, right? You just need to get that idea out there, and then you can legislate.
The Assembly Bill A2228. It's going to be a background check on buying a 3D printer. And if you don't believe that this can come to pass, I want you to look up color printers. Any color printer. The reason that any color printer doesn't print unless you also have color, like I want to print this black and white document and it won't let you if your color is out, is because there are yellow micro dots that are printed on the document which include the serial number of the printer and some other information about the print job, so that if that document is part of a crime, it is easier for authorities to trace where that document came from. That's right, your printer prints secret things on your document so that you know where it came from. So law enforcement knows where it came from.
Now that would be the same FBI background check for firearms. So if you become a felon, Donald Trump could never own a 3D printer.
Maybe he can just go to his library's, makerspace. Except, they're cutting all that stuff out of libraries. So
that's an interesting loophole. Do you think that you'd still be able to go there, or are they going to have to start?
I could go down to our local library and go.
But I'm saying, is the library going to be mandated to start IDing you?
Oh, maybe.
To make
you
sure
have to have a library card.
You get a license?
Is it possible to rent a firearm? Is that a thing? Without can a felon rent a firearm?
Like
They don't own it.
That would be so
can rent bear
insane.
spray.
You can rent firearms, I think, at firing ranges in very controlled circumstances.
What if a felon creates a trust? Can the trust own a firearm?
Probably because the rich loophole is always built in.
Yeah.
I think
Pay to play.
there are a couple states where a felon can own like a silencer through a trust, but not in person, which is hilarious.
Well, it turns out that I'm bad at sorting.
AT&T is stopping its 5G internet service in New York because of a new broadband law. So this is a 5G service. You have one of these 5G modems that sit and it joins the 5G network. But apparently they think at $15 a month they can't make any money on that for your home internet service. It is byte limited. It is rate limited. It is the bottom tier as far as internet goes. But AT&T is just like, nope, we're out.
And I think it was just 20.
Yeah.
Like they're not willing to give up that $5. Maybe it was their loss leader. I don't know. But guns and printers are not the only thing that you're going to need a state ID for.
Texas defends its law requiring ID for adult websites to the Supreme Court of the United States and says, we've done this forever.
We need the SpongeBob like clip of like 2 years earlier, and then it's like when they passed this.
It doesn't seem like a great argument on its own, but Ars Technica has a lot of other arguments from both sides and the Supreme Court was asking a lot of cases. Was it Alito? Alito was trying to compare it to Playboy. He's like, is there anything in there? Is there articles about like cologne or like the latest fashion? And it's like, well, I mean, actually there are some machine learning lectures on there, and like there's a lot of crazy stuff. There's an entertainer that used to teach machine learning on YouTube that has since switched to doing other things, but the machine learning videos are in both places, and she makes more money on the machine learning videos on the other place than YouTube per view, which is interesting.
So the rule is interesting. It's kind of like bars, right? Like if you're on probation, you can go to a restaurant that serves alcohol, but you can't go to a bar. And the rule is a third, right? A third of your business has to be the banned thing. What website only has a third adult material?
There isn't one?
Engagement challenge, we just might not be aware of it. One of my favorite things in the world is watching Bodycam video on YouTube. It's such an amazing slice of reality, and I'm so upset that now there's going to be less of it.
Ohio governor will let the cops charge the public $750 for Bodycam footage. This probably won't survive a Supreme Court challenge. They can probably only charge what it actually costs them. And they might be this incompetent, but I doubt it.
So it's not $750. That's the cap.
$75 an hour.
Right. So they say it's $75 an hour for an expert to go in, pull that video, and they do have to redact. And they're not always very good at that. If I ever have to call 911, I'm going to give them the address, I'm going to hang up on them. Because that will be a public record. And if they're reading out your address or social security number or whatever, you have to count on those sensors to catch that.
And they don't always.
They don't always.
Do you think they'll argue that there's a precedent with like research papers? Will they charge it for those? Or like law, where you have to pay sometimes to see certain things in like LexisNexis?
Well, they've already done this with documents.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. I mean, there's bad case law, but there's case law.
I think it'll be about.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it, but it does seem like there's a precedent.
I think it'll be about 20 minutes before the Axis body camera thing's just like, hey, we'll do it for you. We'll give you $10 for every hour, and then you don't have to worry about it. And then they'll charge $25 an hour or $50 an hour.
That's still going to reduce my overall consumption of body cam footage. I don't like it. Now, the headline is misleading here, but basically, like all the outgoing people who are fleeing before the new regime comes in are, they're trying to defend their actions. And for Director Wray, it's China, China, China.
FBI Director Wray on threats America faces decision to step down as Trump returns to the White House. And this is 60 Minutes, but it's all kinds of weird. Like, there's just a lot of weirdness here.
Now, he is really speaking some doom here. He's basically kind of between the lines saying they're in the water system, they're in the electrical grid, they're in all of the government, and they're just waiting. And I'm
going to my bunker now. Bye.
I mean, he wasn't wrong about the satellite, but it was not. It's not China. It was Russia, the satellite provider, the non-Elon Musk satellite provider that had been the incumbent satellite internet provider for your last ditch option. You couldn't get it anywhere else. They accidentally nuked the whole company. Like, again, the people that are in law enforcement and our government looking at that, I don't know why there's not a task force to help your local water grid. Like, your local water grid should be able to pick up the phone and call the federal government and say, hey, we think something really, really hinky might be going on here with some foreign adversaries. Can we get some help? And they like, there would be a SEAL team out the next day to help them clean that up.
SEAL team should not be operating on U.S. soil. There are laws against that.
The IT equivalent SEAL team, then. How about that?
The Geek Squad, but like federal version.
A little less concerned with killing, a little more concerned with securing, yes.
Well, the water and the electrical grid might not be secured at all, but all of your cloud storage and all of your social media use is secured and constantly being monitored. You cannot just upload things to it.
The Independent has the headline, the Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist arrested on the worst sort of thing that files that you can have. And it was because things detected it in storage.
He had uploaded it somewhere. I don't think they give details. And some of it was also AI generated.
Yeah.
Do we even have laws about that yet?
I don't know. Well, probably. Yes, there is case law that it didn't matter if the children didn't exist for the purposes of the child exploitation laws.
Dude looks a lot like the serial killer from season 1 of True Detective.
Think he modeled his look off that?
And moving over to Europe, here is a terrifying headline about all the health data that's being captured about you.
Ministers Mull allowing private firms to make a profit from NHS data in an AI push. Don't worry, they say, your health data has been anonymized. But to what extent can your health data really be anonymized? And the answer is, you are a snowflake.
You know how we know? Because all our health data is fair game to everybody. They're just selling it.
It's not great.
And it's been proven time and time again that de-anonymizing it does not work. And they will use it for the worst possible reasons. I mean, they can't cut off your health care over there. Well, I'm sure they'll do terrible things with it.
Remember when a rando security researcher walked into the governor of New Jersey's office and was like, here's your medical records. And he's like, what? How did you get you have this, you stole it. And he's like, nope, bought it in the anonymized data set. And based on things that I know about you and things you said in the press conference, I narrowed it down to this file. This is you. And he looked at it and was like, yes, this is me.
Oh.
And I will also assume that it will be used for this purpose, even though you don't have a copyright on your own medical data. Think about that.
UK kicks off review into training AI models on copyrighted content. This is okay, right? Because the copyrighted content doesn't live on in the model, more or less.
It's an interesting argument, and we haven't really had a case make this decision yet in any finality.
I like how it's like, this is a review. We're going to review what happened here because it sure doesn't look like anything wrong happened.
Well, some wrong things have been happening in the hacking space, which is a plague of ransomware. And you don't have a lot of options when it happens to you, but the powers that be are insistent that you not pay those bills.
UK plans to ban public sector organizations from paying ransomware hackers. Interestingly, paying some of those hackers was already banned. Like here in the U.S., you're not allowed to pay the hackers if they're from Iran.
Also, you can't do business with the government.
Yeah.
If you're doing business with the government, if you have a government contract, you also are not allowed to pay that. Look at the red bar at the top. TikTok has lost.
Oh.
Dun, 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 dun.
Alert! Social media emergency.
And Apple, they are also getting fresh scrutiny from the EU, as is always the case. It's a day ending in a Y. The EU is going after Apple.
Apple's new fees for app developers under fresh EU scrutiny, Bloomberg reports. However, this Reuters article is kind of useless because it doesn't really properly outline the changes from how it is now, from how Apple wants it to be, because it's way more egregious than this article makes it out to be.
It's the core technology fee, which Apple started out saying, every install, you owe us money.
Yeah.
And people were like,
what?
That will just, I'll be developing an app so I can pay you. That doesn't make any sense. And so they softened it a little bit. It's still a terrible idea.
Yeah. Apple really thinks that they really behave like a $10 trillion company when they're like just it's exhausting.
Now let's ask ourselves, with the hype train of tech bros giving Trump $1 million apiece, why do you think they're doing that? What could they hope to gain?
Zuckerberg urges Trump to stop the EU from fining U.S. tech companies.
Now, how would Trump have any authority in the EU? He wants hard-nosed sanctions and hey, play ball with them like you play ball with China on our behalf.
I saw a meme related to this. I really think they have turned up the marketing memes and innovation happens in America. Nothing interesting is happening in EU. But one that I saw that I laughed at was a meme where it was the Elon Musk's rocket self-landing, and it had an American flag in the background, and then there was a European Union flag on the other side, and it was the bottle, the plastic bottle cap, where it has the little tether so that you don't lose the cap built into the bottle, and it's this is the European innovation. The self-landing rocket is the American. I thought that was funny.
We're just talking on the Euros?
Yeah, because it's just oh, look, the most amazing thing to come out of Europe in 2024. And it's the water bottle with the built-in lid.
They might have had something better.
Japan got to the dark side of the moon. I'm sure other space agencies do stuff.
Well, Japan is one of the topics as we move to Asia. But first, let's talk about Indonesia, who is going the way of everybody else.
Indonesia plans a minimum age for social media use. And what I was looking for here is how they plan to verify the age. Is this another one of those Orwellian?
Yeah. The company that plans to help them with that is the one lobbying for this, like they are everywhere else.
And funding the studies about how bad social media is. You know what else is really bad for children? Absentee parents.
How do you outlaw that? Tether them to the children? It's like the water bottle.
Yeah.
We attach the children to the parents.
You're just talking about leash kids.
Yeah, but you can't remove it.
Oh, it's just
It'd be like the scram tether. If you meddle with it, the cops come to your house.
What if we have a nanny device that you strap onto the child, and the AI is continuously, it's oh, your child engagement level just fell below 0.4. You're going to be reported to the authorities.
Why don't we just put the children into an AI-controlled incubation cube until they're 12?
I mean,
that won't cause any problems.
We could combine that with cloning, and then we've solved the population collapse.
Well, we have too many people. Population doesn't need to go up; it needs to go down. And these people are probably believers in that. Secretly, they don't like to talk about it, but they are our global governors, and they have some ideas about spyware.
Government's call for spyware regulation in UN Security Council meeting, but this was really a disappointing meeting because they basically talk about this in a two-tier context. They're talking about spyware that they can use on the citizenry and making sure that it's controlled and has a backdoor versus just maybe we should build things to be secure and everybody should enjoy being secure from this type of horror.
The number one user of spyware, especially the kind they're talking about here, which is state-sponsored spyware, is government.
Yeah.
You're going to regulate yourselves? No, of course you're not.
They didn't even, but the terminology and how they were talking about it was all just, how do we make sure that we still have this, but it only can apply to the plebs? How do we solve that problem? And it's just, why is the argument even about that?
Poland made an impassioned speech because if you remember, their entire incoming government was being spywared, they determined during the election. So, yeah, you're not immune from it just because you're in charge, or at least you won't be when you're not in charge anymore. And nobody is immune to this. And Google, in the past, has acknowledged it and been like, yeah, that's a problem. You know what? We're gonna take some steps to stop that. And they kind of did. But now it's apparently been long enough. People have forgotten.
Google is tracking your digital fingerprints again. They stopped doing this for a while because of all the court cases. But now that the court cases have died down.
Fire it back up, boys.
Well, in the court cases, it also sort of exposed how many third-party companies are doing this. There is an element inside Google that is looking at all of the app, because a lot of apps have consolidated. There's umbrella companies that own a lot of apps. And the GPS libraries, here's your library that's completely free that'll make mapping and location finding easy, but it also surreptitiously reports to somewhere else. That's part of the terms of you using that free library. Google's looking at all this stuff that's happening commercial, all these horrors being visited upon us. And they say, we need a cut of that. That's us. This is our platform. We own that data. Why do you get to use it, but we don't?
And they're very good at it. They have a lot of different points to track here. And so if we go back and talk about the healthcare data, it's like that. You are a snowflake. Your screen resolution, your location, all that stuff goes together. They know exactly who you are. There's no anonymizing it.
Yeah. I mean, my monitor layout makes my web browsing analytics stick out like a sore thumb in every analytics package there is.
Another thing that stuck out like a sore thumb was the lack of any transparency when it came to telling people that they were hacked.
UnitedHealth hid its Change Healthcare data breach notice for months. That's weird. This company behaving amorally, not following the rules? That's crazy. I would never believe that.
I wonder if they're worried about people getting really angry at them.
No, I don't think so. Not at all. Not in the least.
I saw the new CEO stepped up and made some comments recently, and I was like, I would keep your head down right now, dude. Like, now's not the time to be making statements.
You got to get that money somehow. You got to make them. You're on a fine line because you have to do what the board wants and then also not die.
Wow.
It's a tightrope. And if you have children in school, they are now being exposed to AI and all of these, like cloud services and everything. They're getting them started young. And guess what? It's not being protected.
PowerSchool data breach victims say that hackers stole all the historical student and teacher data. Everything in your permanent file, everything in your secret file, and every note that your teacher has ever made in the system. Every little thing that came up in the literally just everything. It's all gone.
You know that time you peed yourself in kindergarten?
Oh, and then
It's
put
in
a
there.
note on it in your profile.
The whole world knows.
Pants peer. There's actually a tag for it. It's not even like a free-form field. It's just PP,
It's
pants
an
peer.
easy query.
Yeah.
You can find all the pant wetters. When you start your TikTok career, that's going to come back and haunt you. And some things that might come back and haunt you are also the packages that you're installing for your software.
SNCC, is that how you say that? Security
think so.
researcher deploys malicious NPM packages targeting cursor.com. But they were helpfully named cursor retrieval, cursor always local. This is packages that are trying to look at what you're doing in the cursor AI service and report it to a malicious, probably third-party server.
They caught it.
Well, this one rando that's just like, here's my hobby project where I just randomly download NPM packages every night, found it.
We need those heroes.
We really do.
And AWS is always misconfigured, and you always suffer when you do that. And it turns out that they have some helpful tools for the people who are trying to destroy your work.
Ransomware crew abuses AWS native encryption and sets data self-destruct timer for 7 days.
So yeah, once they're in there, they can just use AWS's native encryption tools to ransomware you, and you can't get it back because you don't have the keys. They don't even have to spend any computation time doing it. You're paying for it. And AI, of course, is, it's kind of like gunpowder, right? It's an equalizer, except it's not, because the really good stuff is under lock and key. And if you try to use it in a way that they don't like, they will bring the hammer down.
Microsoft sues service for creating illicit content with its AI platform.
So this was some guys who figured out how to beat it, stole somebody else's account. So again, they don't have to pay for the tokens, and then built a system where you could rent from them to get to the raw AI. But they got caught. And another way that you can be attacked by your apps.
This is a lot of the Ars Technica headline is Startup Necromancy. Dead Google app domains can be compromised by new owners. This is a lot of words to say. When you have a startup company that has a domain name, you're going to have to hang on to that domain name from now until the end of time, because when you let the domain go, someone re-registers the domain, then you have access to all of the email addresses that have ever been at that domain. Now, the emails that were there are gone. That's not a big deal, but you can use the domain to log into other services. So if somebody was like, sign in with my email, you can do forgot password. If it was a Google account or a Gmail account and it was like, sign in with Google, guess what? You're going to be able to sign in with Google with that email address.
And there's a 90% failure rate for startups. So it seems like what they do is they sign up for all these, like cloud services and everything. And then when the money runs out, they're like, all right, see you later. And no one ever winds those down. Google does have tools for that, but nobody does it.
Well, in this case, it was like, okay, imagine that the startup company was paying Dropbox as well, which is not in any way connected to Google, but they were using sign in with Google or an email address on the domain somebody just bought. You sign back in to Dropbox, and if the files haven't been deleted from Dropbox, you get all the files that are in Dropbox. They said they were able to do that with accounting and payroll sites and some other sites that have long-lived retention policies. Microsoft famously has a 90-day retention policy, so you can get a lot of interesting stuff.
I mean, it is a failed company.
Yeah.
So I don't know how valuable it's all going to be.
Well, you get people's social security numbers and payroll. That is intrinsically valuable.
I suppose. If you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
No one on the internet is horrible, though. They would never do that.
Well, maybe a few people, because we'll wrap up with some state-sponsored hacking and cyber warfare.
Russia's largest platform for state procurement hit by cyber attack from a pro-Ukraine group. So basically, this website is offline. And this is like the second or third attack like this in as many weeks. There was a major ISP in Russia that was hit, and their servers were wiped, their customer servers were wiped, and all the backups were wiped. They're starting from nothing.
I mean, we talk about how bad the security is here, and it certainly is. But you would think if you were actively at war, that would be a bigger priority, right?
Yeah, perhaps that's a warning for us.
And yet, we will not take it.
There's not enough people with a clue to secure these things. People are like, let's plug the toaster into the internet. And it's like, you have no idea how that toaster can be weaponized. It needs to get off the internet now.
It's going to kill everybody in the break room.
I mean, you don't know. You don't know, but it could.
Well, we could certainly start a fire. Yeah. But you tell yourself there's not enough crumbs in the bottom of your toaster to start a fire? There are.
When somebody hacks it to just run continuously for 12 hours, it absolutely will burn your house down.
Clean your crumb trays, everybody. That's the main takeaway from today's stories.
The biggest thing you can do for cybersecurity in 25, keep that crumb tray spotless. Maybe put some flame retardant gel down.
I'm doing my part.
How cool would it be if your home internet connection, it's like you've got your home, your personal home assistant, and as soon as it detects you're within Wi-Fi range, it plugs in your home internet. But then when you're gone, it just unplugs it.
Then somebody's going to hack your robot.
Yeah.
And unplug
There's
it
no
random
winning.
times. How does the robot know that you're because Wi-Fi. Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad terrible idea. All right.
Anyway.
Tomorrow we'll talk all about the social media excitement.
There's so much of it because, the happenings of this past weekend. And, like Mr. Beast trying to buy TikTok and Kik trying to buy TikTok. And
I don't have those stories.
like everybody wants
That's
to buy
false
TikTok.
advertising.
I want to buy Intel. Intel's only on the market. It's only $85 billion. I just need a small loan of $100 billion. I can get it done.
For that price, I could buy a compound and just F off and never see anybody ever again.
I mean, it's like I get a loan for $100 billion and I buy the thing and I have a $200 billion asset. Like, why wouldn't you do that? It's crazy.
Bye.